Hello and welcome to this month's Tippy Lunch and Learn webinar, Practical Insights from the University of Iowa's Tippy College of Business, served over lunch and ready to use right away. Today's special, level up your visibility. Because we know that many of you join us during the lunch hour, we will always get things kicked off with a shout out to a food-themed alum doing great work. Since we're coming off Valentine's Day, we wanted to highlight a Tippy alum who knows a thing or two about treating yourself. Alicia Smiley, who was recently featured in the Iowa Ledger, is the owner of Roman Holiday Gelato. Alicia has mastered the art of the sweet spot, that place where a great product meets a perfect brand story. We're going to use that sweet spot theme today as we dive into your questions and help you find the right balance for your own digital presence. We'd also love to hear about your favorite spots with a Tippy connection. Do you have a favorite restaurant run by an alum? Or is there an alum doing things in the food and beverage industry? Drop them into the chat and we may feature them in a future Lunch and Learn webinar to celebrate our alumni in the food world. Before we dive into today's conversation, here's what's next up on Tippy's Lunch and Learn menu. Workplace well-being. Practical strategies for resilient leadership. Our March webinar is your chance to gain evidence-based strategies to manage your energy and lead with resilience. Join Associate Professor Beth Livingston and Katie Schneider, Director of Tippy Thrive, at noon on Tuesday, March 24th, to learn practical ways to navigate what's in your control, set boundaries that actually stick, and build high-quality connections that fill your cup rather than draining it. Join us for actionable tools to build a more resilient, balanced, and fulfilling career. We'll drop that registration link for this next Lunch and Learn in the chat shortly. And if there's a topic you'd like to see served up by our Tippy faculty or alums in a future session, let us know in the chat. We love hearing your ideas. Today's session is being recorded and will be available on Tippy's alumni and lifelong learning pages, as well as our YouTube channel. Past webinars are also free and open to the public, so feel free to share. Now, let's dive into today's main course. Level up your visibility, making LinkedIn and your digital presence work for you. Tippy alum and executive coach Nicole Johnston, former leader at Procter & Gamble, Hershey, and Kimberly-Clark, is sharing practical strategies to showcase your skills, tell your story authentically, and create a digital footprint that gets noticed. That is what we have on deck right here for you today. We're going to have time for questions at the end. Submit yours using the Q&A below, and feel free to share your thoughts in the chat as well. Now, let's get started. Take it away, Nicole.
Thank you, Nick, so much. I'm very happy to be here. So this was a great introduction from Nick, but a lot of what I'm going to be sharing today is my learning from literally seeing hundreds, if not thousands of resumes and LinkedIn sites from my career. And we're going to share some really basic things that need to be addressed, but then also some strategies around how to optimize and do more with your story, your presence, and get the connections that you really want. And even though the story doesn't say it, I am a very dedicated Hawkeye. I did graduate from the University of Iowa Tippy School of Business, so anything I can do to help my fellow Tippy alumna, I am very happy to do so. So today we're going to cover 6 main areas of just the what of your profile. And this is going to be talking about really strengthening it to work for you. And then we're going to shift a little bit more into the how of things that you can be doing to make it work harder for you as well. So let's start with some of the basics. The profile picture. I know this might sound obvious. Is it professional and clear? But you would be shocked how many people's profile pictures are not. This is an example of a young man I worked with. This is obviously not professional and clear, and it is not something that is going to give confidence to anybody who's looking to recruit. Another example is here. This was obviously cut off from some other picture that was taken from him doing something, who knows what. But the amount of times you see a cropped photo or a weird photo in LinkedIn, that does not work for you. So instead, if you're going to take a screenshot, this is a great one. If you're looking to improve your profile picture, there's different areas to look at. The quality, the background, the lighting, the dress code, the facial expression. This is not something that you have to go to a professional studio to make happen. You can do it in front of a white wall with someone borrowing your iPhone. But it's a matter of positioning yourself, having the good lighting, looking confident and smiling and bringing that to the photo because that will look a heck of a lot better than something that's weirdly cropped that you're throwing up there instead. So the next part is it reflecting the industry or role you are targeting? So this is what I mean. If you are in the arts, what your picture will look like is going to be dramatically different than, let's say, if you're an accountant. One should be conveying something that's much closer to what aligns with your work. And if you're an accountant, you might be a little bit more controlled, but you want to make sure it reflects who you are and what you are doing. So here's an example. Courtney's a friend of mine. She's a professional speaker. Look at the combination of her picture and her banner. And it is very obvious what she does, and it's very obvious who she is. This is working for her to communicate why you want to know about Courtney and what you want to talk to her about. Here's another example. Jim, he's a photographer. Very simple. If you have a head, you need a headshot. Now, obviously, he's trying to get to the business audience that says, hey, let me help you here, getting the right headshot for you. But these two are both using that very important real estate that frequently gets overlooked, ignored, or just, you throw something in there that stays up there for 10 or 12 years and that's fine. Use this space to work for you and make sure it's helping you on your search, on your growth, on whatever it is that you're trying to do. Because it comes down to this question. Is it going to be easy for the hiring manager to see you in the role that they're hiring for? And if what you're communicating doesn't do that, it's working against you. So your homework on this one, simple, improve your headshot. Again, the next time you get your hair done or the next time you feel like your beard is on point, throw on a coat, a sweater, or whatever it is that you want and get that headshot taken and upload it because you want it to be working in your favor. And then when I talk about searching the relevant banner image, now obviously these two images that I have here are perfectly tailored for what they do. Yours doesn't have to be that much. But you can easily go into Canva, go search LinkedIn banners on Google. You can also have AI create something for you. But make sure you're using every inch of space that you have to communicate who you are and what value you bring. So now, here we go. So now, the next big thing that we're going to talk about is your headline. This is your personal claim. This is what you want people to know about you. This is what you want to be known for. The hardest thing to write in marketing is a claim. It's not the 30-second commercial. It's not all the ad copy. It's trying to distill and boil down who you are and what matters about you or your product or whatever. But getting that claim clear, compelling, interesting is hard work. And so you really need to spend time on this. And there's a lot of time where people are just like, whatever, and they throw something in there. Again, make sure every single piece of space on your LinkedIn profile is helping you. Put the thought into it to really make it strong. So here's some examples. You can see Lisa here. No profile picture, or excuse me, no banner picture, says CFO. I don't know if this is what the University of Michigan teaches people or not, but this is not a compelling headline. This is not a compelling profile. This is a profile that people will easily click through because they're just, if you're not interested enough to put effort there, a recruiter or a hiring manager is not going to put their effort to figure you out. Here's a slightly better one. I work with Taryn. As she says here, she is an operational and performance-driven leader and a talent builder. Those are absolutely true. That is her. And at the same time, she still doesn't have anything up here for her banner. And so it's not working as effectively as it could. Now, here's Buster. He is putting up an intriguing graphic that talks about change is good, change your perspective, see things differently. And that ties into his claim of international transformational business partner. So his banner image gets you thinking, his headline reinforces it, and it really brings it together to create a strong communication of why you would want to talk to Buster. Great examples that you can find. So a really easy way to do this is, again, go to Google, go to Canva, get that background piece on it, but figure out what makes you unique and interesting and make sure that comes through in your headline, and then use that banner picture to reinforce it. So a headline formula, which has been shared in the chat of another Tippy resource where you can go in and look at headlines, but a simple way to do the formula is your role plus your specialization or industry, and then what makes you you. And now, the great thing about this is you can draft this thing, head over to ChatGPT, head over to whatever your favorite AI is, and ask, looking at people who have X kind of role, how does this headline compare? How could you make this headline stronger? And have ChatGPT help you refine this to be even better compared to what you originally wrote. Now, at some point in the chat, there is going to be a link showing up for a previous webinar that's called Prompt Power. And in that webinar, they shared a 2-page handout that gives a whole bunch of fantastic prompts about how to use AI to strengthen your resume, your profiles, all those kinds of things. Highly recommend you go look at that for some prompt suggestions. But on everything that you write, have AI help you. Tell them exactly the kind of role, exactly the kind of industry, exactly the details of what it is you're going after. Compare yourself to it. Ask for how it could be better, but make AI work for you on these kinds of details. So your homework on this one is draft your headline. Now the about section. I know you might be reading this and saying, well, of course it's written in the first person. Well, I think you would be shocked the amount of times that is actually not the case. And you really want to make sure that this comes in your voice and how you would talk, and not have it sound like some other weird thing that's out there. So do check to make sure you have written it in the first person. Does it tell the story of your career? Does it tell you why you have gone from this company to that company, or this role to that role? Make sure your about section talks about you in the way you want to be spoken about, because obviously this is you when you're not in the room. So does it give the story that you want to give? I was once hiring a guy, and he had a 2-year break on his resume, and a lot of great things looked great, but he never addressed that. When I asked him, I said, so the 2 years, what were you doing during that time? And he kind of looked really sheepish, and he said, honestly, I was burnt out and I needed a break. And so I went and I learned how to surf, and I became a surfing instructor. I'm like, that's amazing. Put that on your resume. He's like, that has nothing to do with what I do now. I said, no, it may not, but it shows that you're willing to be resilient and learn new skills. And that's fantastic. So make sure your story tells what you want to tell. If you've had a career break, if you've, been fired, if there's things like that out there, don't hide from it, but figure out the story you want to tell. That's super important, because you're not always going to be in the room to be able to share. The next one, are you highlighting key skills and strengths? And this is what I'm talking about on, are you using a list? This is an example of a woman who works in finance. So it starts in first person, I, yep. She says very clearly, I grow organizational capacity through mission-driven leadership and forward-thinking financial strategies. Oh my gosh, that says a heck of a lot more than I make the books balance. She is saying that she is focused on people, she is focused on delivering the vision and mission of the organization, and that she's not just going to be doing what she does today, she's going to be thinking about the broader impact. What an amazing opening sentence, right? And so then it goes into the key skills. So it talks about leadership across sectors, meaning she's done a lot of different things in different places. Again, driving organizational capacity, because one of the gaps that frequently happens in hiring for finance is that people are great with the numbers, but maybe not so good with the people. So she's really driving across the point here of this is a strength of hers. Financial storytelling. Again, storytelling is something that is a huge opportunity for anybody, regardless of the job you take, but especially in finance, accounting, in some of those more math laden areas. Storytelling may not always be a strong point. And so being able to say, no, I do this and I do this well is a great differentiator. And so she has called out 5 different things here that really make her different than other candidates. But now, if you listen to nothing else in this webinar, pay attention to this. The list is your friend. It doesn't have to have pound signs in front of all of them, but this is how you break the SEO and AI search, because it's hard to do the buzzword bingo and get everything in all the different places so that when a bot is searching through profiles and searching through resumes that you come up in the search. Here's how you do it. At the bottom of the About section, you list all the other stuff that you can do. So that way, in case for some reason this perfect role came up, but it wanted trusts included in it, and she didn't have trusts anywhere else, it's at the bottom of her list. So she would be opted in to that search because of it. So make sure that you have that included in everything that you do. Your list, as you're looking at this, you're thinking, oh my gosh, that's a lot. How do I do that? AI. Go in and say, hey, search for the VP of marketing, search for the director of finance, search for the head nurse, whatever it is. Tell me what skills, passions come up repeatedly in job posts and in people who are noted as leaders in this field. It will help you compile a list that you then copy and paste and put it in your About section. This helps break the bot stalemate. Make sure you have a list. Dedicate time to creating it. So you definitely need to get your skills list and get it added into your profile. Next, experience. Now, the next 3 things that I have here are your recent roles clearly outlined. Does it include metrics, specific achievements? Again, a lot of people are probably like, well, Captain Obvious, yes. You would be shocked to know how often this does not happen. So let me talk to you about the car. In the simplest terms, when you're putting it on your resume, on LinkedIn, when you're interviewing, every single answer needs to have the car. You need to have the context, actions, results. Almost every single resume, LinkedIn profile, everything just spends all their time in action land. I managed 40 people. I did this. I did that. Tasks. They very rarely say, I managed 40 people handling 85% of the revenue and delivered 200% growth. So an activity does not help you. A result does. So I was once helping a student, and on their resume, he had sold $1,000 for something, whatever. And I said, is $1,000 good? And he said, yeah, the next closest salesperson was $200. I'm like, then you need that context. Because for me, $1,000, I have no idea if that's awesome or awful. And so you have to help it make it easy for people to know what you're saying is good. So you have to make sure that you are really being clear on your results. So the best way to do this is to make sure that there is a number in every single bullet point. Now, here's a little fact. No one's going to check your numbers. I am not telling you to lie. But if you are saying that, hey, grew market share 20% and the actual number was 19.4%, okay. But you don't want to say grew market share 80% because that's easily disprovable. But putting in numbers that either are protecting proprietary information of a current company or putting them in more round numbers, totally fair. Nothing's going to be said about that, but never, ever, ever lie. That is completely provable, and that just takes you out of recruiter systems. It takes you out of so many different things. So never do that. It will come back and bite you, and it's not going to be pleasant. But so always make sure you have a number and then your verbs. The amount of resumes I've seen that say, I led, I led, I led, I led, I led, I led. So many different ways you can engage differently on that. Brainstorm, disrupted, energized, engaged. So many more interesting action verbs than just led. So every single thing for your experience, please check to make sure you're in the car and that you've got an interesting verb. So check for your number, check for your verb, and get that result on there. Next is a kind of a little used place of LinkedIn. And you want to make sure that you have looked at this recently because skills came out, I don't know, 15 years ago or something. And when they first came out, everyone was like, ooh, skills. And everybody put them on there and probably haven't touched them since. And what I was doing 15 years ago, my skills are completely different than what I do now. And so you need to make sure that they are correct. Now, here's the thing. As you are accelerating your career, the what becomes assumed. And this is what I mean. Like for the example I gave earlier of the woman who's in finance, she was applying for CFO roles. If you're applying for a CFO role, it is assumed that you know what finance is, that you know the basics of finance, that no one has to explain to you how to run financial models, what the measures mean, all that. The what is assumed at that point. But in a leadership position, what becomes the question is the how you lead people, how you strategize finance, how you make the changes that are out there. And so if your skills haven't been updated in 15 years, they're probably very what-based skills instead of the how-based skills that you need as a leader. So make sure that they are accurate and timely and reflect what is needed in your industry. So my skills, as you can see here, now tie to what I do as an executive coach, author, and speaker. My skills before were all heavily sales-based because I was a head sales officer. But as I've shifted my career to helping others, I also shifted my profile and I also shifted my skills. Endorsements and recos. These guys, these are cheap and easy, great press. You can go out to people and ask systemically for an endorsement or a reco in LinkedIn. It's super easy to do. They have a system to do it. And you can send the automatic mail that says, hey, will you write me an endorsement? I always follow that up with a personalized message that says, hey, I just sent you a request for an endorsement. I would really like if you could talk about da 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 da. What I have done is made it much easier for that person to write an endorsement I want talking about my skills in a specific area. The easier you make it for someone to create, the more likely it is that you're not only going to get the endorsement, but you are going to get the endorsement you want. So endorsements show up here on your profile, and they are a great way for people to see unprompted what other people say about you. And at the same time, it's great free press. And so here's where you can see where the red arrow, this is where you click on the plus and ask for a recommendation. That's it. It's super easy. It's not hard at all to get these. You just have to know how to go get them. So this is a place where if you're interested in a different role, if you're interested in a different company, see what they are putting in their job posts, see what they're talking about. Look for those key terms, the vision, the strategies, the interesting data that they're bringing up, and make sure that those can show up in your recommendations, because here's another place where you can break the SEO. You can get those key terms showing up here associated with your profile. So again, it raises you in the search priority. And then finally, education. Is it listed accurately and completely? So this is my education. I graduated from Tippy, but I've also done executive training. And so I've been trained at Kellogg's School of Management at Northwestern. I've also gone to other schools as well. And I have my certifications for coaching up here now. Make sure that if you've gone through some really developed training program, there's probably a good chance that you can put it in here as part of your education. So make sure it reflects all the interesting things that you've done. The certifications are, these are professional certifications. So it's not going to be just, hey, I did a creative writing class or something like that. But search if you have some kind of certification associated with you, like project manager certification, PMPs, things like that. Get them in here. Those will be in there and you can add them to it, which again helps you break SEO and helps give you more relevance and more ability to show up in searches. Now, LinkedIn Learning is a phenomenal place to go learn and get skills. And so are Google. You can go get stuff for free. You can go get AI certified for free. It is a great way to be able to add more interesting stuff to your profile that makes you more relevant. And everybody at this point needs to know how to use AI. And if you're scared, you don't know how, whatever, just go start with the free classes out there. There's tons of them. And then you can easily add a skill to your resume. All right, so I'm going to recap the homework on just the basics of the profile, and then we had some questions that were submitted in advance, and I'm going to start with a few of those before we turn it over for more broad questions. But to recap the homework, get a good headshot. Make sure it's professionally lit, you look awesome, just get a good headshot and banner image. Really work on that headline. Own what makes you unique and figure out the best way to put it in there, and remember, AI can help. Get that skills list. Like I said, if you listen to nothing else in this, add a skills list to your About section to help you break the SEO chokehold. Get in the car. Results, numbers, verbs. Make your experience pop so it tells such a great story about you. Use the power of LinkedIn. Use Indeed. Go out, look at these places, look for key terms, look to see if, oh my gosh, in all the director roles, they're now asking about X. Figure out what that X is and make sure it's part of your profile. And then add an AI skill to your profile. We talked about LinkedIn Learning. We talked about Google Skills. Go out and get them. I just saw a question pop up about should the education section include the date, month, and year? Not necessarily. You can. It's an easy way to age you. And so depending where you are in your career, you might not want to share the years, but you can, but you do not have to. And then I'd mentioned earlier about the Prompt Power webinar. Awesome webinar, great handout that goes with it that has a 2-pager that I use in my coaching business almost every day. It's fantastic. So go find that. And I know the link was put in there earlier, but that can help you really strengthen on a lot of these details we've talked about on the profile. So now moving on to some questions. There's a lot of questions about posting strategies. Once you get your LinkedIn profile built, now you want to use it. What do you do? How do you do it? The first question is how often? Honestly, it's what feels right to you. Some people, it's going to be one profound post a week. Other people are going to give you little blip updates 5 days a week. Other people will do 3. But you want it to be authentic and tied to you. So if you're someone who is a deep thinker, who wants to write out something that can be shared that's really informational and important, you might do it less frequently. If you're someone who's great on camera and loves to share the silly videos and, oh my gosh, here's what I learned, and no problem doing that easily, that's what you do. But you have to figure out what is the stuff, the content you're going to post, and then that will help you figure out how often. Now, the how, like I mentioned, it totally depends on who you are and who you want to talk to. So if you are trying to just talk to, I don't know, let's say you're in the entertainment industry and you're trying to talk to bars and restaurants about the new vodka that you're repping. That's going to be a very different discussion than someone who's talking about, I work in the legislature and we've just changed a new rule that helps you take this discount when you're doing XYZ. Different audiences, different who. And so that's going to be a different connection. So you have to think about it, what you want to talk about, who you want to talk with, and that will help you figure out how you talk to them. I see this a lot of, oh, I hate social media. It's not me. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to put on the dog and pony show. If you're not the person who would ever just get on a quick video and then blip it out, don't. But if you're someone who is fascinated by something, share that. There used to be a data source that would come up with the most interesting data that I was on their email, and they would come out with this new data once a week. And inevitably half of it made it into my post because I just found it so freaking fascinating. And so you just have to figure out what works for you. But I will tell you an easy way to build posts and build more of a presence until you figured out your own strategy is to follow things you love. So let's say you are a huge fan of, I don't know, NASCAR. There's NASCAR teams on LinkedIn. You can go follow them, and when they make a comment or a post about something, you can put a thoughtful comment in there. And that also helps give you confidence about what you say and how you say it. So it doesn't have to be like, oh my gosh, I have to figure out a calendar. No, 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 no. You can start just by thoughtfully commenting on people that you value and other companies and things that you find interesting. So these are two ex-Tippy ladies, Sarah Monson and Isabella Volson. These two are some of the absolute best I have ever seen when it comes to posting. They are both just awesome at it. And they post in a way that I never could, but they are engaging and funny. They've got great content that goes out, very approachable and personable. But these two, they're just awesome. So they're great examples of Tippy ladies out there doing the thing on posting. Another thing on LinkedIn is to change your name. You can get an automatic link on LinkedIn, which in my case would probably be something like Nicole Johnston, 8412, ABCDE, whatever. Or you can go in and change your name. So if my link on LinkedIn is Nicole M. Johnston, and that is an individual link for me. So it doesn't have all the alphabet soup after my name. So make sure you have changed your name to something that is uniquely you and that makes you more searchable as well. There's a lot of questions about cost on LinkedIn Premium. LinkedIn Premium is $39.99 a month. Is it worth it? Well, it depends on what you're doing. You can do quite a bit in LinkedIn without LinkedIn Premium. However, if you are searching for a job, if you are looking for clients, if you are thinking about making an industry change, if you're thinking about making a career change, it is much better to have access to all the stuff than if you had to count, oh, I only have these many mails this month that I can send. I can only connect to this many people. It gives you a lot more flexibility. I know many people who are on LinkedIn Premium for the 3 or 4 months where they're job searching and then they go off it for a while. And I know people who went on LinkedIn Premium, 10 years ago and have never been off it since. It depends on what works for you, and you have to decide that. But the LinkedIn Premium gives you access to a ton of accessibility content and LinkedIn Learning and different things that other parts of LinkedIn that you don't pay for don't. So you have to determine if it's worth it for you. And then another question that came up was how students should use LinkedIn. I see a ton of great posts because I'm connected to a lot of students on LinkedIn about, hey, I made the dean's list, or hey, happy to announce that I have an internship, or oh my gosh, this guest came in today and I learned XYZ. This is a great way to start building your LinkedIn muscles. Understanding what to post, how to connect to other people is super important. I will tell you right now, for the students on the call, every single guest who comes into a Tippy classroom or a University of Iowa classroom, connect with them on LinkedIn. There is not going to be anybody who says no to that because you are expressing interest in them and therefore they're going to express interest in you. Ask for the connection. Do not be shy. Ask. And then finally is how to network with LinkedIn. There are a lot of questions about I can't get any attention. I can't break through the bots. I can't do this. I can't do that. Yeah, it's really hard right now. It's super hard. And there's a lot of bad behavior by companies and ghosting and a lot of other stuff. By far, the most effective way to get a job is to still know someone. And I will tell you, I literally have thousands of connections on LinkedIn. I may not remember how I connected with you, but if any person says to me, hey, Nicole, I'm interested in a job at X company you used to work at. Would you be willing to chat? Absolutely. I know how hard it is to get a job right now. I would love to help you on that. It's going to be a very rare person who says no. Everybody wants to help someone else because when they want help, they want someone to help them. So when you are applying for jobs, 100% check your network. Make sure that there's not someone in your network who can help you. Because, especially for students who may not know how this works, if you are interested in a company and you connect with a person in that company, that person can put you in through the employee referral system. That moves you much higher up in the priority. And if the company hires you, the person who referred you might get a little bonus. So it's a win-win. So again, ask, use your network, connect with people and say, hey, I'm really interested in a job in blank. You have experience in that. Would you be willing to chat with me for 20 minutes so I could ask you some questions? Great. Again, people want to help people. It's the rare person who doesn't. So make sure you use your network and ask for people to connect you or introduce you. And so we're going to take some more questions, but as we get into that, please scan this QR code on your phone. This is my information. It's got my LinkedIn in there. It's got all my information. If you want to go buy my book link is in there. Feel free. But it's got tons of different stuff in there. But please scan that and get my information because I'd love to be in contact with people.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nicole. Lots of great info. I know, like many of you, I was taking notes and thinking about my own LinkedIn profile. A reminder, if you have a question for Nicole, drop it into that Q&A so that we can manage it accordingly. But we'll get things kicked off with some of the questions that we got in advance because there's some really good ones. You talked a little bit about career transitions. How should you manage your LinkedIn presence if you've had multiple professional identities? For example, owning a business while working in the public sector.
The best way I find is to make sure your story tells your story, meaning, are you being transparent and saying, hey, I worked in the public sector, then I owned a business, then I went back, and why those changes occurred? And there's nothing wrong with trying different things unless you perceive it's wrong and you treat it that way. And then people who are looking to recruit will get that energy, and that's what they'll think about it. So instead, just make sure you're owning the story, own what happened, and just be transparent in your experience, in your exposure, and just tell your story. Make sure it's working for you.
So another unique situation is advice for employees who are not natural self-promoters. I feel like we hear this a lot and find the platform's visibility aspect challenging.
The example I can give for you on that is I had a guy who worked for me who, if I ever told him good job, he would turn flaming red and run away. He did not like to talk about any of that kind of stuff. But oh my gosh, I learned more about Formula One racing from this dude than I ever wanted or needed to know. But now I know a little bit and I think it's kind of cool. But it's kind of like on The Big Bang Theory where Sheldon had his fun with flags. Everybody's passionate about something. And you may not go and post about yourself or brag about yourself or the things that you're doing, but you can absolutely talk about stuff you love. And so for him, he started sharing with us all this Formula One stuff. And we ended up having Formula One parties and things like that. But that was his passion. And if we had tried to get him to talk about all the engineering stuff, he would have been like, But because he loved Formula One and we figured that out, that's how we drew him out. So you do not have to do what I would do on social media, what Nick would do on social media. You have to do what is interesting to you. So if your passion is Formula One or chocolate Easter bunnies or whatever, bring that passion forward.
So, kind of as a segue question, I feel like there's something generational about it too, that you mentioned younger generations are very comfortable just flipping the camera around and doing a sort of video. And that with older generations, a lot of times to that last question's point feels a little off. Is there specific advice for mid to late career professionals?
When I mentioned earlier about the shift from the what to the how, you want to make sure whether it's a video, what you're writing, what you're talking about is really focusing on your how? Are you focusing on how you can help an organization? Are you focusing on how your leadership is needed? Are you focusing on how what you bring is really important for a company to have? And how you do that can look different ways. It can be, oh my gosh, I just read this book. And in this book, I learned that XYZ is something I have been doing that has been limiting my ability to connect with Gen Z. So now that I know this, I'm really going to focus on that. It doesn't have to be anything huge. It can be what works for you. But as you get later in your career and you are trying to raise still through a company, focus on your how. Step away from the what, focus on your how.
Great point. We're going to take one from the Q&A. There's a couple different ways this could go, so I'll just ask both of them. I believe there might be a typo, but it's related to a profile picture.
Mhm.
Would it be okay to use my 5-year-old picture, and then it's got a smiley, but technically it says my 5 years old picture, and I would maybe think, are they talking about their 5-year-old child, which
Right.
which would be a hard pass. Cute kids,
Yeah.
but
So here's my question for you. If you are a portrait photographer, putting a picture of your 5-year old up, absolutely, because that's showing your skills. If you are someone who is in aeronautical engineering, putting up a picture of your 5-year-old, not so much. If you have a picture that is 5 years old of you, probably okay. But think of it this way. If how many shades of hair color away are you from the picture? And if you're more than one or two, you might want to reconsider the picture. That would be my guidance.
we had someone from LinkedIn on campus talking to our undergrads in business communication class, and she said that exact same thing about hair color. And I've always thought of it is if someone connects with you at a conference and then connects with you on LinkedIn, it should look like the same person.
Yes. Yeah, you don't want to have the, do you think?
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
you
yeah,
want
yeah, yeah.
people to match you up pretty quickly.
So Julie asks, can you talk about which of these strategies work for my business LinkedIn account? So I'm assuming that would be like the business page.
Yeah, that's how I'm going to take this. Julie, so when I talked about the audit and the 6 areas of the audit, they are all highly relevant with the exception of the education, because obviously a business can't be educated. Now, how you put the content, what your company does, those kinds of things, how you interact really matters. Do you have a link to where people can book time with you or find your services or those kinds of things? Are you using that site to communicate offers like this week only get X amount off of whatever deal? Are you using your business site to connect with like-minded people because you're trying to build an organization? It depends what you want to use it for. If it's for client searching, you would tailor it toward that. If it's just informational, so it helps you in overall SEO, then that's what you put out. But it really, the what you put on it, the profile, the banner, the about, all of that should be built with the same kind of thoughtfulness to it. But it depends what you want to communicate as a business.
Another great one that came in requesting a recap. Can you explain the formula again? As a nurse, I'm confused by that.
Sure.
Asks
So
Natalie.
I'm going to go back to the headline section, which is a lot of back arrows. I apologize. There we go. All right. So the formula here. So if as a nurse, you could say RN, and it could maybe you are a PEDS RN. I don't know, but you would say that, and then your unique value proposition impact is something. It could be around like maybe you can say specialized cancer care for the total family, or it could be something around with some new technology that you're an expert on, or maybe you're an OR nurse and you know how to do something that other people don't know. But so you would say that you're a nurse, the kind of nurse you are, and what skills you have that make you different, especially if you're trying to get some kind of specialized role. So I hope that makes sense, Natalie. If it doesn't, put a follow-up question in.
Very good point there. A question. Here, another one jumped in just now. What are your thoughts on putting a degree or certification after your name, like John Doe MBA or John Doe PMP?
100% do it and make sure you put it in your name. Don't use part of your headline to say that. Put it in your name. The alphabet soup should always be after your name because you don't want your headline you don't want to give that space to that because it should be in your name. So whether it's PMP, doctor, whatever certifications that you have, those kinds of things, all those letters should be after your name.
Really good question and good point to make there too. How do you balance networking effectively while also looking for professional growth opportunities?
I talked earlier about following your passions. In this case, it can be following companies. So my whole background was in consumer products. So in addition to following all of my competitors, so like when I worked for Procter and Gamble, it could have been L'Oreal, Unilever, all of my competitors. I also followed Walmart and Target and Amazon and Costco to see what they were posting as well. And so when you follow those kinds of things that surround you in the industry, you pay attention to what's important to them, what they're getting traction on, what they are talking about. And let's say that you are super interested in working at X company, whatever. Follow a few people in that company, follow the CEO, follow the CMO, and start making thoughtful posts. Because when your name pops up over a period of time, the people will start to recognize you and might engage you in conversation. And that's when, after you've done that a few times, you can have I love your company so much. I would love to talk about opportunities. Would you be open to that? But if you start there without having done any of the work before that, it comes across as really artificial. Do the work of connecting and relating and commenting and build that comfortableness before you ask for hey, hire me, please.
Really great point. And once again, finding that balance and leading with your passion. Mackenzie asks, what would you recommend if you've held jobs and decided to go to college to be in a new profession? How should you list your previous job history and skills so that future employers don't see it as non-irrelevant or too different?
Every experience, every job you've had is relevant. 100% period, full stop. It's all in how you position it. Now, I remember when I was interviewing for jobs out of college, I was talking about detasseling corn. I was talking about when I was a waitress. None of these are going to be relevant for me to go work at Procter and Gamble, you would think, but they are because they taught me about the discipline. They taught me about what it is working in adverse conditions, taught me about customer service. Any job that you have had, regardless of industry, figure out the benefit that you got out of it. And when you are talking about your experience section and your about section, make sure you're bringing your car here and bringing a result that can carry over.
That's such a good point. And, you have talked a lot today about stories. And one thing in the Story Lab program that I lead on campus, I tell our students that all of those experiences you've had, all of those stories about jobs detasseling speak to who you are. And those are absolutely relevant as well. So
Yep.
one last question. I'm curious, can professionals use LinkedIn to highlight both their full-time job and a personal business? If so, what are the most effective ways to present both without confusing their audience? Good question.
Yeah, this is a harder one, Maria, because we have very limited attention spans. And if you are getting known for one thing, then you switch to something else. It used to be the old truism was someone had to see something 7 times before they've recognized that they've seen it at all. That was before the internet. That number is now 28, so 4x. And so, because of that, it's really hard to break through. And so, what I would propose is instead, if possible, to have your personal profile dedicated to whichever one you want, whether it's your personal business or whatever, and then you have a secondary profile that you're running parallel path because if you put them combined, you're probably going to make both of them worse than what you want. So I think you're probably going to need to be choiceful on that for it to be more effective. Otherwise, your audience is going to be really confused of, well, that's not me, and well, I don't get this. So you're going to have to be choiceful on this. And one final question just snuck in. Absolutely add old certifications, 100%. Throw them on. Yes, get those in there. You earned them, put them on.
Awesome. Well, before we wrap up, like the Tippy Leads podcast, we like to close each Lunch and Learn with a final tip E, a practical takeaway that our attendees can apply right away. What's one thing you'd recommend that our attendees go do after today's session?
Get in the car. Verbs, numbers, results, get them on every part of your experience. Get in the car.
You heard it. Get in the car. Thank you again for an incredible presentation. And thank you to everyone who joined today's Lunch and Learn. Remember, this session has been recorded and will be available on the Tippy Alumni and Lifelong Learning pages, as well as our YouTube channel. Be sure to join us next month for Workplace Well-Being, Practical Strategies for Resilient Leadership, featuring Associate Professor Beth Livingston and Katie Schneider, Director of Tippy Thrive. They'll share strategies to manage your energy, set boundaries, and build connections that fill your cup. It's coming up on Tuesday, March 24th at noon. The sign-up link is in the chat. Right after the webinar, a brief survey will appear in your browser. Please take a moment to share your feedback to help us enhance our future programs. On behalf of everyone at Tippy, thanks for joining us, and go Hawks!